Dale's a roofer. He had his best year ever. It was the busiest he'd ever been. The crews were out every single day. He barely had a slow week all year. And at the end of it, he was missing $134,000. It wasn't stolen. It wasn't one bad job that went sideways. It was money that should have been sitting in his account, and it never showed up. And the wild part is, it wasn't a mistake he made once. It was the exact same mistake on every single job all year long. And it all came down to two words he thought meant the exact same thing: markup and margin. Okay, so here's why this actually mattered, and it's not just the number itself. Dale had just brought on 2 new crews that year. He bought a second truck. He hired an office manager to help him keep up with everything because he was drowning in the day-to-day. And all of that was based on him thinking he was making more money than he actually was. He wasn't reckless about it. He looked at his numbers, he saw growth, and he made what looked like smart moves off of that growth. The problem is, the growth was never as real as it looked on paper. Naturally, the first place Dale and his bookkeeper looked was the obvious stuff. They figured maybe material costs had crept up on him without him noticing, since roofing materials had gotten more expensive that year. They checked it. Materials were right where he'd priced them. They figured maybe overhead had gotten out of control with the new truck and the new hire, so they went through that too. Overhead was actually right in line with what you'd expect for a company his size. And here's the thing. Dale had actually been pretty disciplined about his pricing all year. He wasn't underbidding jobs to win them. He was hitting his target markup, 20%, on basically every single job he sent out. So on paper, everything he was checking said he'd done it right. Okay, so this is the part where I actually sat down with Dale myself and we went through his numbers together. And I asked him one simple question. I asked him, what's the difference between your markup and your margin? And he looked at me like I was asking a trick question. He said, they're the same thing, aren't they? 20% is 20%. And I told him, no, they're not the same thing. And that mistake right there was exactly what cost him $134,000. Markup is based on what a job cost you. Margin is based on what you actually charge for it. Dale was pricing every job to hit a 20% markup. But once you run the actual math, that 20% markup was only ever handing him 16.5 cents of real profit for every dollar he brought in, not 20. Dale had been making that same mistake on every single job all year long, and he had absolutely no idea he was doing it. Real quick, if this kind of thing is useful to you, please hit subscribe. I put these out every week. Here's the thing though. You'd think the fix here is simple. Just start pricing off margin instead of markup, right? And it is that simple mathematically. But when Dale actually ran his numbers that way and saw what his business needed to look like, he panicked a little. Because to actually hit a real 20% margin, some of his prices needed to go up more than he was comfortable with. And his first thought was, if I raise my prices, I'm going to lose jobs to guys who are still pricing the old way. He almost didn't do it. He sat on it for a couple of weeks, still bidding the old way, because the fear of losing work felt bigger than the fear of a number on a spreadsheet. Okay, so here's what actually happened once he made the switch. He started pricing every job off real margin instead of markup. And he did lose one bid early on to a guy pricing it the old way. That stung, and for a minute it felt like his fear was right. But every other job he priced that way, he won anyway. And every single one of them actually made him what he thought it would make him. No more gap between what the invoice said and what showed up in his account. Losing just that one job meant he barely gave up any volume. So by the end of that first year, pricing it the right way, Dale had closed almost the entire $134,000 gap on the same amount of work he'd have done anyway. So here's what I want you to take from this. If you've ever wondered why growth never seemed to turn into more money actually showing up in your account, this might be exactly why. Markup and margin are not the same number, even when the percentage looks identical, and that one mix-up can quietly cost you real money on every job you price without a single thing going wrong on any of them. Here's something simple you can do. Go pull one of your own recent jobs. Compare what you thought your margin was against what it actually was. If there's a gap, you're not alone. And now you know exactly what to look for. I didn't get into all the technical reasons behind this math. I didn't want to turn the whole video into a math lesson. But if you've got questions about any of it, Drop them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. I started doing this work because I spent years watching good, hardworking owners get blindsided by exactly this kind of thing. Not because they were bad at running their business, but because nobody ever explained it to them. That's why I started Stravalon. If you want someone to actually sit down and look at your own numbers, there's a link below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.